This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Allan Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Allan Winans alongside Thomas Carannante. Clarke Schmidt gave us a scare, skipped the start, but also felt great. We'll talk about his quotes, comments. What do they mean? They certainly mean a lot for Carlos Carrasco, who got the 7-tweet dose of Jack Curry news this morning. We think we know how the rotation is going to shake out at first, but we'll talk about it. Plus some bullpen men who might not be ready for opening day. We might be taking them for granted. A fleet of injury updates. Joey Gallo wants to be a pitcher, and a lot of offensive players actually kind of crushing it at Yankees camp, who you might not have noticed. Plus, the Yankees and Padres scouting one another, scouring from the bushes. Is any business happening? Yeah, probably at the deadline, but we'll talk all about it. Thank you for joining us. I'm Allan Winans. I am joined by Thomas Carannante. This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast, 2 o'clock Eastern time, every Monday, every Thursday, and on all podcast platforms, streaming live on YouTube. Plenty to cover. And Thomas, welcome to the show. Even if Clarke Schmidt is healthy to start the season, which, hey, he says he feels great, but it depends on what your definition of healthy is. Healthy people don't typically have shoulder pain. But if he's healthy to start the season, the goal already was for him to not be in the first 5 turns in the opening day rotation. The best case scenario after he had that cranky back and what have you was that he would be starting game 6. We already knew that. So the shoulder was a setback no matter what it means, but I guess there's still a chance he's online for what he intended to do. But again, that would still leave him missing his first start. Safe to say yesterday was a doozy, and even if it resolved itself, does not mean that the Yankees have added another healthy arm to their rotation. It still leaves them needing Carlos Carrasco to make at least one turn, or if Carlos Carrasco can't stay healthy, or if somebody else suffers an injury, Allan Winans or some non-roster invitee who's not currently on the team. That's why they have to carry Carrasco on the opening day roster, because like Jack Curry said, you cannot lose him for nothing, and we know he's going once at the very least. So stupid business to let him walk. Doesn't mean Schmidt's healthy, doesn't mean Schmidt's hurt, doesn't mean Warren's getting disrespected or demoted. Just kind of the math you have to do as the Yankees grapple with the fact that they're relying on the health of a right-hander who skipped a Sunday start, skipped a Monday start, threw a bullpen, and Aaron Boone said he wasn't bouncing back the way he wanted to with that shoulder, which is what typically happens before people have serious injuries. That's like what people say. So really pretty weird that they're not giving Clarke Schmidt any form of testing.
Weird, frustrating. Hey folks, first of all, I'm wearing this Cubs hat because the baseball season technically starts tomorrow, if you believe in that type of stuff.
Which we do.
Cubs are playing the Dodgers in Tokyo. I will be rooting for the Cubs. I'll be rooting against the Dodgers. I'll be rooting against the Red Sox, and I'll be rooting against the Mets in 2025. That will be my persona, because I'm now the Joker after all the shit talking from all these teams over the last year has gotten under my skin. And it all really just finally went over the edge with Red Sox fans essentially cheering and laughing about Gerrit Cole's injury. It's unacceptable on so many levels. Everybody knows this. They would be demanding Yankee fans be taken to the guillotine for that if it had happened to Garrett Crochet, for example.
Mets fans are doing it too, just because of one tweet about how Clay Holmes is now the Mets number 3 starter or whatever. One guy's tweet is enough to impugn an entire fan base and laugh as their starting pitchers get injured. Very funny.
Yeah, so look, I have some friends who are fans of these teams, and I'm going to be gracious, but for the overall community, you're in trouble. I am here. Let's go Cubs, Cubbies Nation. I'm here for you if you got to tap me in for anything. Clarke Schmidt, though, very concerning. Happened last night. Wrote about it really quickly. Look, all in all, we don't know. We do not know, which is how the Yankees typically put us in these positions. You get these random injury updates. You get these late scratches. You get these out of nowhere decisions, and then you're kind of just hanging out waiting for a resolution that doesn't ever really come. And then you're hit with more bad news, and that's what we kind of felt this situation was shaping up to be, right? Clarke Schmidt was supposed to start today's game against the Blue Jays. He has thrown 1 2/3 innings this spring. He had departed that spring start after getting rocked. I believe he surrendered 4 runs on 3 hits and 2 walks or something like that. It was not good.
Inning and 2/3, hard hit ball against the Orioles, and
gave up a home run. Yep.
Yeah, and like spring stats don't matter unless it's somebody who's coming back from injury, and they're like, well, let's throw the game. Oh, he sucked in that game. Wonder if he's healthy.
Yeah. And like, look, it would have been fine if Clarke, had a rough spring, but was at least getting the pitches and the innings in there, and he's not doing that. So we had one bad outing, back injury occurred. The Yankees apparently were not worried about it the moment it had happened, yet we haven't seen Clarke Schmidt since that day. So more classic Yankees guarding information and not being candid and open about the situation. He gets scratched. He throws a bullpen today. Apparently he's fine. I guess we'll wait and see in regard to how he's feeling tomorrow, if there's any update on that. I agree with you. I don't see a situation where he randomly gets shoulder soreness and they're like, no, everything's fine though. Like he'll make his next start. He'll continue onward with the plan that we have for him to start April 3rd. And it's like, but how? Because he was supposed to be way far ahead at this point in order to actually start April 3rd. So we're supposed to believe that an abbreviated or truncated buildup is going to still make him ready for April 3rd. I don't know. I'll sit here and I will wait. I will, based on the knowledge that I've been that I've acquired from all this information, I would say that that's not true. But I'm not a trained medical professional, so please do not. Yeah, not yet. But please, you don't have to take my word for it. I think if you just look around and see what else has happened this spring, Gerrit Cole goes down with an elbow issue. It's quickly Tommy John surgery. Luis Heel exits with shoulder soreness. It's automatic 3 months on the shelf. And it's happened how many years past? Carlos Rodon's first season with us, even Gerrit Cole last year. I know, that situation is maybe its own thing, but you have Clarke Schmidt last year missing 3.5 months with the latch strain. Who else was injured out of spring training last year? It was Gerrit Cole and somebody else, right? Wasn't there another pitcher?
The entire roster?
No, I feel like there was another pitcher injured. But either way, look, at the end of the day, we trust the Yankees with pitching. I think that that's a fair thing to say. I think it's fair that we must give credit to the organization for their ability to build depth on that front. But it is concerning when you were going into the season with your rotation supposed to be Gerrit Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Heel, and Clarke Schmidt, with Marcus Stroman, Will Warren, and Carlos Carrasco as emergency options. Or, if they were going to do some sort of 6-man situation with Stroman and Schmidt to manage your workload throughout the year. This was like, oh, wow, match made in heaven. And guess what? If we have one injury, that'll suck. It might happen. We'll just slide and have a regular rotation, and then we could do some funky stuff with Carrasco, Warren, and whoever the other 5th guy is, and we'll figure it out. Now you're looking at a rotation of Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, Carlos Carrasco, and Will Warren. And if you can factor Clarke Schmidt into it, go ahead. I'm not doing it for my mental health because it doesn't feel like it's going to happen. But now they went from arguably the strongest rotation in the league with enviable depth to an incomplete starting rotation with absolutely no depth. So you look at what's happening with Clarke Schmidt and you just simply can't feel good about it until you see him on the mound during the regular season.
Yeah, last year's opening day roster, because I'm checking the injuries. I think you mean Tommy Kahnle. He was out and he started late, but the roster is crazy to look at. It's like the bullpen is Holmes, Beater, Nick Birdie, Caleb Ferguson, Victor Gonzalez, Ian Hamilton, Loiza, and Luke Weaver, which tells you how much this changes year over year, month over month. I mean, we're going to have a whole bunch of guys participating for this year's Yankees team that we never saw coming. And even from the jump, that's going to happen. Nobody was hoping for Carrasco in the opening day rotation and being so important. And they're going to need to carry him as a swingman. And they're going to need to carry Yoendrys Gomez, because why give away somebody who's out of options, who's been this good this spring with the bullpen so unsettled. But yeah, Clarke Schmidt's quote today really threw me. It's not just the Yankee fans who are being pessimistic, assuming the worst. It's that he suffered a back injury. He's behind, and then he has shoulder pain and can't warm up the way he wanted to, but they're not sending him for tests. And everything about the language they're using screams, hey, might be serious, might not be. But either way, we're going to want to test this. And then Schmidt threw today, 24 pitch bullpen session, quote, felt great, watched by Andy Pettitte and Marcus Stroman, who's apparently one of Schmidt's best friends. Schmidt said the Yankees are being smart and cautious with him. From Jeff Curry, quote, I wouldn't be throwing if there was a concern of something major. But again, concerning enough to skip several starts. Concerning enough to report pain to your manager, but not concerning enough to check out. You can't pitch a game today, but you can throw through it in a bullpen session. So I hope he's ready soonish. Like you said, even soonish is probably not April 3rd. I don't know how it could possibly be, because he was already, I mean, you're going to tell me he's going to miss only one turn through the rotation after starting so late? It's 10 days from opening day, and he's made one start, and it was abbreviated. So keep doing these bullpen sessions, but I have no reason to believe that he's fully mended. On the mend, maybe, even though it's tough to believe, but fully mended, no way. And I mean, this just keeps happening. The bullpen, they brought in enough guys, including like NRIs like Hedrick and Matzik and having Yoendrys Gomez out of options and Brubaker and Efra. You brought in enough guys, not really like the back end. It's like Williams and Hamilton and Weaver. These are the guys that you can trust, and eventually Loizaga. But they brought in enough bodies that there was a lot of
Cruz is here, yeah.
Cruz is here. They brought in enough bodies that you could say, okay, we could lose 4, 5, 6 guys and still go into opening day with a not as strong of a bullpen, but a representative bullpen. And they have, lo and behold, lost like 4, 5, 6 guys. It just keeps coming. And even Hamilton battled an infection of some kind, hasn't pitched yet, says he'll be ready. He's throwing. He's not throwing in games. He says he'll be ready for opening day. It's 10 days from now. I don't need to overwork relievers in spring training.
No.
I don't need to see relievers come in all the time and take care of game action. But if Ian Hamilton's telling me he's ready, I need him to be ready, because we've already lost. These aren't the core guys, but we've lost Efros. We lost Brubaker. He broke his ribs. We lost Beater. We lost Cousins, who's throwing at 90 feet now and hasn't pitched in a game yet. And how soon will he be back? Sounds like no structural damage. Probably by end of April, but not opening day. For sure not opening day. Mark Leiter Jr., again, the New York Yankees all the time. Mark Leiter Jr. hasn't appeared in a game since March 6th, maybe March 7th. Either way, it's been like 10 days. He goes, I got a back issue. It's no big deal, though. I'm going to do a live BP on Sunday. Sunday comes, doesn't do a live BP. The most predictable outcome. I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going to do this. Day comes, doesn't do this, doesn't do thing he said he'd do. Still says he's fine. Said he chose a bullpen over a live BP. Said he feels great. Said no problem for opening day. But I don't know, 2 of the 5 guys who are lined up for the back end aren't pitching in games and are suffering some form of impediment to getting ready for game action. And Cruz has pitched a lot, because I think the Yankees are trying to figure out what exactly he is and why the strikeout numbers are so crazy on that splitter, but the ERA doesn't match up and the peripherals don't match up. And so far we're learning that, like, wow, this guy might just be a crazy guy, because he keeps doing the same thing. It's like double walk, strikeout. And it's like, man, that's crazy that keeps happening. But also that's what his numbers say he does. So maybe not crazy. Maybe just who he is as a pitcher. If a pitcher tells you who they are over and over and over again, you can believe them. That's not to say he's not going to be an asset, but it's like, how many teams are going to trade for Andrew Heaney to be like, yeah, he's a 4.3 ERA guy, but he has the stuff to be a 3.2, and he put up a 4.3 for us again. He is what he is. He's a solid pitcher, I guess, but you're not going to make him change his stripes. He looks the way he looks. That is what he is. The best he could ever be is what he was for the Dodgers for like 2 months before he broke down a couple of years ago. So I mean, look, the Yankees, like you said, it's impossible to be upset by the Yankees bullpen, especially look at last year's opening day bullpen, look at where they ended and realize nowhere close. We know the Yankees are going to put out a representative group in the bullpen, even if it's missing Cousins and missing Leiter and Hamilton's not ready or whatever. But it is hilarious, obviously, that, I mean, they built the depth they built for a reason, but a month ago, just saying like, well, they have an overload, and they actually did a good job not relying on Loizaga. Like, he'll come back and maybe he'll be a 7th inning guy, but we don't need him before June. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, it'd be nice to have him because we lost 6 guys.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and it's crazy to me that, like, I get wanting to have the optimistic attitude, right? You don't want to. Yeah, if we're sitting here being pessimistic about 2 injuries happening, then yeah, I mean, that's irresponsible and that's being unreasonable. But these injuries continue to happen. They continue to decimate what this team is going to look like on open. And this is for years. Like, the Yankees have not, start to finish, had the semblance of the same roster from opening day until the start of the playoffs. Like, every year it's this carousel, it's musical chairs. And I get that that's partially the nature of the MLB season, but for a team like the Yankees, who you feel should have a little bit more stability because of the resources that they have, it feels like we're just constantly having to put pieces together, and there aren't any answers to so many questions. And we had more updates on injuries today. Leiter Jr. and Hamilton were spoken about a little bit over the weekend. And also the Leiter Jr. thing was weird. I don't know if you touched on that, but Sunday morning they're like, "Oh yeah, he didn't pitch his bullpen session, or he didn't pitch his live BP." And then 6 hours later, they're like, "Wait, he threw a bullpen session because he got to pick between the two, and now everything's fine." It's like, but you just told me he had a back issue and he didn't throw live BP. So what the fuck is it? Like,
yeah, he didn't throw his live BP that we told you he was going to throw, but actually he did throw something, but you guys didn't see it. He chose to do a private thing instead. Oh, okay.
It's like, every injury update is more confusing and more layered than the last, and that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. But in terms of some other guys that we need to stay on top of, we have DJ LeMahieu, who is, quote, moving the needle and progressing from his calf injury, and he's now hitting. This is all from Aaron Boone, by the way. Jake Cousins is throwing at 90 feet. I think we can assume he will be back in 6 weeks. Something like that.
Yeah, good for him throwing.
Right.
I mean, good for him getting that examination that said no damage to the UCL and just
Good.
sprain. But I mean,
you're throwing at 90 feet right now. Then you need bullpen sessions. Then you need live batting practice. Then you need sim games. Then you need minor league games. Then
unless you're Mark Leiter Jr., then you just get to pick one.
Actually, you know what, Mr. Steinbrenner, I'm gonna pick. He spins a wheel. It's like, going straight to minor league action today.
I'll do 90 feet, then 40 feet, then Somerset, and then I'll do a live bullpen.
It's too good. Oh, and then this is the best. We have a Giancarlo Stanton injury update.
Oh, yeah.
He is doing more, but Aaron Boone would not specify exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So that could mean he's getting up off the couch a little bit more smoothly.
I mean, doing more, like, isn't that the Montefiore Hospital slogan? Or is that just a subtle ad saying he's shilling for Montefiore?
Subtle ad drop.
Or at Montefiore Hospital being treated?
Giancarlo Stanton has now graduated to getting his own beers from the fridge instead of having somebody else do it for him because his elbows are sore.
He's no longer yelling, "Beer me."
I'm glad he's doing more. I am not upset that I don't know what it is, but, like, at that point, just don't say anything. Don't leave it up to anybody's imagination. Just say Giancarlo Stanton we're working on getting him back to progressing. Great. What's he doing? He's working through the elbow issues and the PRP injections. Okay, awesome. That's it. Not he's doing more, but I'm not going to tell you what he's doing. Secret. Because that either means what he's doing more is really fucking stupid and doesn't really dictate an update, or the Yankees are lying. Or he's not doing anything more. They're just trying to convince you that he's on some sort of path. We did have a good update, though, on Friday for Stanton. Apparently, he's dealing with a calf issue on top of the elbow issues, which is not really a surprise because Stanton has suffered from a lot of lower body soft tissue things in the past. And I want to say the calf has been a problem for probably, 3 out of the last 6 years. I feel like that's a safe estimate. Not knocking him. I'm just saying that was there, that happened, and this is nothing new. The Yankees have to monitor it and they have to be on top of it. And then John Heyman said that an optimistic return date for him would be Memorial Day. So we're like, all right, did the PRP injections work? But that's all he said. Again, another update with a new bit of information with zero context behind it. Giancarlo Stanton, optimistically, one person said, could be ready for Memorial Day. End of article. Why? Since when did this come to be? There was never a timeline. It was always, we don't know when he's returning to baseball activities. And after that, we don't know how quickly he'll be able to get back up to speed. We don't know how much game action he'll need in order, minor league action game he'll need in order to be ready for major league action. And now we're optimistic he could return by Memorial Day, but we actually have no information beyond that. So again, are the injections working? How serious is the calf injury? This is a man who has not swung a bat in 2 months. He told us that. He told reporters that point blank. I have not swung a bat since mid-January because of the elbow pain. And now we're saying he could potentially be back in 2.5 months. Do we have a timetable for when he could pick up a bat? What are the baseball activities he's doing right now? I know Giancarlo Stanton's situation is always mysterious, right? Because it could be he could just be back and that's it, because they were just letting him sit there and rest. And Giancarlo Stanton's kind of a commensurate professional, so I don't think he needs that much time to get back outside of, log the reps at the MLB level, see the strikes. You're going to have a bad week or two, and then you're up to speed. Minor league assignments aren't going to do much for, a potential future Hall of Famer, 500 home run hitter in Giancarlo Stanton. But where are we right now? And why do we have a new optimistic projection? I don't know. I feel a little bit better about it. That's at least cool, because a lot of the updates have been doom and gloom, and this is the first one that actually moved in a direction that wasn't a step closer to him being out for the season. But again, I'm in injury purgatory. Where is this coming from and why?
Yeah, and this one was not bringing me one step closer to the edge or I'm about to break. I don't understand. I mean, we asked one guy, right? One person said there might be an optimistic.
Who do you think it was?
Probably Andy Pettit or Marcus Stroman, the people that watch Clarke Schmidt's bullpen session. It also is unclear from the context. Is that an optimistic view from someone who knows Stanton, from a doctor, or is it just someone saying, an optimistic timeline? I don't know, Memorial Day. A pessimistic one? I don't know, 2029. I'm just coming up with options on either range of the spectrum. Realistic? Probably somewhere that splits the difference between those two. The Stanton one was, again, he deserves whatever grace he needs. He's going to come back when he's going to come back. And in the meantime, you actually do have some flexibility to play with in that DH spot. It's a killer. You do not want to lose a bat of Stanton's caliber in a playoff series. But over the course of a long season, the argument can be made that he's nowhere near as valuable as he once was. It's a worse look than it is a seismic reality based on the way he's played the last 2.5 seasons. But you want him back and you need him back, and you'll take him at his best instead of at his compromised. I don't need Stanton now. I don't need Stanton playing through this elbow tendonitis in both elbows. I need him to get right because I need him to help this team when they're hopefully where they are in a game that really matters. And hey, gloom and doom. I don't think we were that doomy or that gloomy to start the podcast. We're just setting things up and setting expectations. But the opposite is what several key offensive players have been doing at spring training for the past week and a half. Aaron Judge kind of going through the motions like he was last year. Jazz Chisholm off to a rough start. Anthony Volpe off to a rough start, but hard hit balls for both of those guys. The stats aren't there. It's spring training. And I would say it's really hard. What is Jazz Chisholm competing for? How do I motivate Jazz Chisholm to go hit 340 at spring training?
It's weird. It's weird.
It's weird, but I'm not pressing the panic.
We're not. But you look at the stats and you're 147.
Bad.
502 OPS, striking out 13 times against, him and Volpe, 26 strikeouts in 26 games. I'm much less concerned about Jazz because, again, Jazz is an MLB veteran who we know who he is, right? He's a league average bat who brings electricity and brings good defense and brings athleticism, and that's what you need. Anthony Volpe is a little bit more of an untapped resource in regard to what his potential is. So he was viewed as this mega prospect who was going to be a 5-tool, all-around hitter. And so far, we've gotten a couple of those tools. The defense is very good. The arm strength leaves a little bit to be desired. The range is excellent. The instincts are excellent. But at the plate, the mechanics are always changing, it seems. I read that article about his bat speed. We talked about it last week. His bat speed was at an all-time high in the postseason. Maybe it was adrenaline. I don't know. His bat speed's back to being an all-time high, but he also had the mid-season crisis the chicken parm crisis back in 2020. Was that 2023 already? Time's flying fast.
Yeah.
He had the Yankees didn't know what was up with his mechanics. He had to fix a couple of things. And then he essentially just replicated the same offensive season year over year, and there was no jump. It was actually, I don't know, you might have preferred the rookie year because it was 2020. Although you did like to see the jump in batting average and slugging, which was helpful. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he's 139, 490 OPS, I don't know. I'm hoping it's just, let me F around with my new approach and have it stick. But if you're facing lesser competition throughout the spring, then how is that still the sample size? Not worrying. It's just information to point out. And you see all these other guys who have kind of climbed out of their ruts, Dominguez and Ben Rice and Oswaldo Cabrera. I was shocked. I mean, I was watching a little bit. Dominguez looked good, and then every time I wasn't watching, I would get a push notification like Jason Dominguez rips a triple. Jason Dominguez homers again. I'm like, oh shit!
Over and over again. The RBI singles were hard slices off
rips,
the ball, like over and over again.
The ball coming off his bat is incredible, and we knew it was only a matter of time before he was able to get comfortable and show where he should be and where he needed to be. I think that healthy skepticism there, because you're talking about season-ending surgery last year, then an oblique issue, and then the Yankees jerking him around at the end of last year and him never really getting his footing and probably feeling maybe a tad disrespected based on the Alex Verdugo stuff. I don't know, but you look at that and how it was handled and you're like, all right, you're screwing up this guy's development. That's what it seems like. It's what it feels like. But to date, 14 games, 43 at-bats, 256 average, 801 OPS. And that is huge because his numbers were much worse than that even, a week ago, 10 days ago. It looked like it was like, all right, what's happening here? I think he was hitting like 173. So the fact that he has 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, he doesn't have a double yet, which is bizarre. But either way,
for that reason, I'm out.
Now we're out. Ben Rice, someone who was also batting the high 100s. He's up to 268, 821 OPS, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, also no doubles. So I guess it's null and void. But 7 runs scored.
He just rocketed one in the gap against the Jays, and for some reason it was a long single. So I think these guys just aren't allowed to get doubles, and that's fine.
That's okay. We'll take homers. And then you have Goldschmidt, who I don't think at any point was ever lost because he had his moments where he hit a home run, ripped the bases clearing double, and was kind of always on top of things. But the numbers overall just entirely weren't there. And I don't think anybody was concerned, but you have the age factor. You have the Cardinals factor. Like, what did this team do to him? Because it's bad over there, and we don't know how everybody's mindset and morale is coming out of a situation like that. But he's up to 313 and 1.077. 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 4 walks. He's got 3 doubles. So that is legitimate, and we can definitely hitch our wagon to these stats lasting all year long just because of those 3 doubles. But I'm liking the turnaround that we're seeing. George Lombard, of course, cooled off a little bit. Oh, and I can't forget about Oswaldo Cabrera. 343, 924, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. Also no doubles, but 12 hits. So that's cool. So this double stuff is this is eerie. Okay, Trent Grisham also no doubles. He's batting 316.
But it's homer.
Yeah.
For Trent.
JC Escarra, no doubles, 13 hits. Ben Rice, no doubles, 11 hits. Oswaldo, 12 hits, no doubles. Everson Pereira, 7 hits, no doubles. What's going on here?
You think they're telling him not to bust it on balls in the gap so that they don't have this chronic calf issue? Like, we already lost LeMahieu, we lost Stanton, we can't have any more calf shit. So you guys are, if you hit a double into the gap, but if you hit it at 100+ mile-an-hour exit velocity, just jog to first. We don't need to take the extra bag.
Dylan Lawson is back. He's like, hit strikes hard, but also walk after you do.
Dylan, we know. You're on the Red Sox now. Right? Get out of here. He's like, sorry. Just trying to help. And Goldschmidt has been, for me, the biggest joy to watch on a regular basis. Because I didn't know. I was a huge proponent of the addition at the time, especially when it was down to Goldschmidt or Carlos Santana. And those are the bets we're making. Yeah. And I've seen just a lot more body of work from Goldschmidt, defensive intensity from Goldschmidt. He just made another diving play today. If they can get him right, or at least 75 to 80% of what he's showing in spring, he is going to be a huge asset And I will go as far as to say this. I know these are spring training stats, I understand, but the approach has been so refreshing. The defense has been so refreshing. And all of this talk about spending big money on Munetaka Murakami next offseason to be the Yankees' first baseman of the future, someone who struggled the last season and a half in Japan and didn't live up to this 50-homer pedigree he had set, I would be hesitant about throwing $250 million at somebody when I could just give Paul Goldschmidt another one-year deal. If he keeps doing what he's doing, I would use that money on Kyle Tucker. I would use that money on high-end starting pitching because Gerrit Cole's not coming back. Because we got the big lie last week about how it was internal brace, and everyone's like, oh, great, he'll be back for opening day. And then they were like, it's actually surgery and a brace. He'll be back in 30 years. Like, wait, what the hell? So Gerrit Cole probably coming back midsummer next year, but not for opening day. You're going to need, look at what the rotation is. We like it, don't love it. You're going to, if you get the chance to sign a Dylan Cease, you do it. If you get the chance to use your money on a high-end offensive player like Kyle Tucker and somebody who's a threat defensively and on the base paths, a well-rounded player instead of a Vlad Jr., and you're able to get another ace or number two or a co-ace, you go ahead and do that. I would keep filling first base the way we've been filling it. I need to see Goldschmidt do it in the regular season, but I'm pretty confident he will at this point. And let me throw another name at you, not for opening day impact, but guess who's hitting 476 with a 1047 OPS and 21 at-bats? Any guesses? 10 for 21.
I saw that. This is Alexander Vargas.
This is not Alexander Vargas, but the position is close, and the last name, first initial, is correct.
AV?
Well, the last name initial.
Oh, V. Damn it. I don't know. Tell me.
This is your beat. This is Vivas.
Vivas.
10 for 21, playing a
Vivas,
good deal.
Las Vegas.
Vivas, Las Vegas. He's playing, he's 0 for 2 today, which has dropped him below 500, unfortunately. So, regrettably, but the last.
What'd you say, 21 at-bats?
Yeah, I mean, now I think he just picked up his 22nd as I was speaking. Way to
Cool.
date the podcast, Adam. Good job by me. And he made another out, so this guy blows, I guess. But 5
No
for
doubles.
8. 5 for 8 over the weekend, still no doubles. Everybody playing a no double defense. No, he's got 2 doubles.
Cool.
A rare double collecting guy. The only issue, he hasn't walked yet this entire preseason, but also he's there to impress. He's not there to walk his way to first base. He wants to show you his swing, and he has. And considering this team isn't exactly spilling over with infield depth, I would be interested to see if they could use him at some point this season. If not early, they're still. The one thing I can't totally declare, we've got another 10 days left before opening day. I can't say with any confidence that we're not going to get a surprise addition to the roster. Like some veteran.
Just who? I just have no idea.
I have no idea. And if it was Willie Castro, it's not going to be Willie Castro now because Royce Lewis is down with a moderate hamstring strain. That guy is basically an idea at this point, not an actual athlete. And so we're not going to get the Twins backup plan, the Twins glue guy. We're not going to get Luis Rengifo, who's also injured. Yoan Moncada thumb injury. I don't think we're going to get Rengifo ever. Even when he comes back from whatever this short-term thing is, they don't have Moncada. They're going to go to Christian Moore. They're going to ruin another prospect, I guess, out there in Anaheim. So I don't know. You got to dance with the ones that brought you, apparently. And Vivas is making a case to be one of those guys. And JC Escara, special shout out. If he's not the backup catcher, then I don't know who is. He's getting the puff pieces. He's hitting 400, showing off the power. Hit a big one against the Phillies on Friday night. I mean, clearly the dude there. And also, that's a different wrinkle that the Yankees did not have last year. So hopefully he is the guy. And hopefully Ben Rice can get some reps back there. And hopefully we're able to use all of these dudes because there are some bat-first good defensive players in places where there were no bat all defensive players last year.
Yeah. The offense has been like, I don't want to say impressive, but I haven't had any issues. It's like every other day there's some sort of an onslaught. So I think that the depth here is actually somewhat promising. And like you were talking about with Vivas, like I've been wanting to see him for a while. It feels like forever. I know it's only been a year, but we thought at one point last year he could be Gleyber Torres' successor, and then once again injuries derailed that and whatnot. Now they're talking about going outside the organization and finding this bat. I don't know who that would be. I don't know what option would be appealing at this point. Brian Cashman literally came out last week and said that acquiring anything of note this close to opening day is usually very difficult, if not impossible. So why are we taking that route with a bat when we may have the solutions in-house? Like if there's one thing this spring has shown you, it's like there might be some young guys who could do it. So why are you going to go out and get, after you passed up on all the veteran bat additions that could have been helpful earlier on, and apparently they're not sold on JD Martinez. So it's like, well, what's the play then? Is there some random trade suitor out there that's ready to just wheel and deal for a player that's going to make a difference for the Yankees for at least the first 2 months? And even if there was, how much are you giving up? And why aren't you just giving that up for pitching? So we heard the Yankees were among many teams to have the Padres were scouting the Yankees among many other teams. I believe the Mets, I believe the Phillies. I have the report right here, so why don't I just read it to you so you guys can be educated? That would be smarter. NL East teams, huh? A lot of NL East teams involved here. Mets, Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Orioles, Rays, Cubs, and a team that has yet to be revealed, and also the Phillies. So, and it is believed that this is for Dylan Cease negotiations. I don't know how true that is. We got a report last week or 2 weeks ago that said the Padres were content with their roster and they weren't looking to move anybody right now. That could have just been a ploy to suggest that they were not getting the offers or the interest that they were hoping for to drive up the price on the assets that they have, Cease being one of them. Again, Cashman said that making these types of acquisitions close to opening day is not preferable and usually puts the organization in a bad position. My argument is, why not now? Because here are the two things that make the most sense in terms of addressing a massive loss such as Gerrit Cole. One, yes, there is the downside that you are going to get ripped off, right? Another team sees that you're desperate. They see that your best pitcher just went down. They're like, great, we can get a king's ransom out of this team because they know they have to replace this talent. Okay, yes, admittedly, not a good situation to be in, but it's the reality. On the flip side, what are your other options in terms of, quote, driving this price down, which is what the Yankees love to do? They love to get guys at a discount. They love to pay below market for a talent that they deem superior. Okay. If you theoretically were to get Dylan Cease now and overpay, at the very least, you're getting Dylan Cease for an entire season. And you're competing with fewer and fewer teams because when the trade deadline rolls around, you're paying a premium because you're competing with more contenders and other teams who believe that there are probably, I would say, 10 teams right now who are saying, no idea if we're going to make the playoffs. We'll see what happens come first week of July. All right. Those teams could be in the mix for Dylan Cease when the time comes. You don't know what they'll be able to offer. You don't know how their farm system will look like in terms of different prospects climbing the rankings or areas of surplus where they're able to trade from and not really feel a hit. So if you're not going to overpay now and, potentially look like an idiot, which I don't ever really believe to be the case because we've seen so many trades go down over the last few years where it's like, I feel like the dumbest trade of our lifetime that I can remember being like, oh, this is stupid, was when the Diamondbacks traded for Shelby Miller.
Yeah, it was pretty dumb.
That was objectively dumb. They traded for like a half season or like a full season of Shelby Miller's only good run, and then they gave up Dansby Swanson and then a number of other pieces for that.
Yeah.
And there was just no body of work there, and they were just gambling on the fact that he would be able to sustain that, and he couldn't. So all these other deals that we've seen go down where teams, quote, overpay, it's never been a situation where you're like, well, man, they closed down shop, man. You got to figure out what you're going to do next because you got nothing left. You gave away up everything for this one dude. And it's like, that never happens. So I feel like if you're going to overpay, you overpay now because at the very least, you are getting a full slate out of that pitcher, hopefully, assuming there are no injuries. And you're actually somehow limiting the competition instead of having to wait in line behind however many teams are out there looking for pitching at the trade deadline, which when the trade deadline comes is the number one asset for other front offices throughout the league. So if you ask me, again, not a professional, right now is the smartest time to just go out there and give your best offer and see where it takes you. Because like, what would have to be included in the Cease deal? Like, do they want Ben Rice? I don't know. Would you give up Ben Rice in a deal for Dylan Cease?
Lombard?
I don't. Yeah, again, I don't know what it is, but I also don't know, like, if you valuing salvaging the next season or two, or are you valuing salvaging the next 5 to 10 years? And if you're leaning in that direction, the next 5 to 10 years, at what has changed in the Yankees prospect process that they're sitting there being like, oh no, we have guys now that are absolutely going to carry this franchise into its next phase, because the Yankees don't develop prospects like that. Which is always my question. It's like, why are you holding back on trading prospects if none of them ever pan out? I suppose it could be the fear of making the mistake with the one guy they finally get, which, yeah, that would hurt bad. But, if you're playing a numbers game and you're in a front office that's analytically driven, wouldn't what has happened more frequently be the preferred process over what has not? I don't know. I would trade for a starter right now if they're serious about going after Cease, or I guess, I've had thoughts about Yu Darvish, just because it's like the Padres are trying to get rid of money. You can get a good starter for a discounted price. Yeah, you'll maybe pay an elevated rate for the next 3 years after this season, but would that be the worst thing in the world? It certainly wouldn't be the best, because that's an aging arm who also has injury issues and problems of his own, but they need help. So you can't look at, you can't sit here and be like, oh, well, Carlos Carrasco is a better option because he's cheaper. It's like, no, Carlos Carrasco is an objectively worse option, and I'd rather pay $20 million for a guy who is not Carlos Carrasco if he's somewhat worth the money. But I'm making a deal now. That's my take. I don't know how anybody feels about that, but why are we waiting? Why are we going to sit and wait around for other people to crowd the mix and make life worse for us and more difficult for Brian Cashman?
Yeah, argument in your favor. There's not going to be a time this year when they're not going to have to overpay. Things
Correct.
are not going to calm down by the deadline. And if you overpay now versus overpay later, you get 2.5, 3 more months of Dylan Cease. 3.5, 4. I mean, the argument against, and what I think the Yankees are thinking, is that, hey, we're going to have to overpay for this guy no matter what. But people view our farm system as depleted right now. At this moment in time, they're going to come to us and say, okay, give me Lombard, Ben Rice, and Luis Heel, and we'll have a deal. And they'll be like, ugh. But hopefully by midsummer, Lombard, 2 weeks of spring training gave people a peek at what they believe he could be. But maybe at the end of the first half, he's got 19 homers, 22 stolen bases, and we're seeing that Carlos Correa flash in game action in the minor leagues. And he can go from a headliner who has to share that deal with Ben Rice and some really top-notch pitching to someone who people would just deem to be an unbelievable get. So he can headline the package, and then it's just filler from that point forward. Maybe Ben Hess looked great in spring breakout. Maybe adding him to the system gives them another bona fide arm. Bryce Cunningham, like Gage Zeal, the rest of the 2024 draft, the people we haven't seen. These people help the farm system reclaim some of that shine they've lost. And so instead of scrambling and sending away pieces from the big league roster, this summer they're able to go, Lombard should be enough, but we also have Hess and Cam Schlittler. Like, how is that not the best offer on the table? They're hoping it will be, but if you're nervous about their development, they could easily be wrong. It might not be. Then again, there's an ace pitcher just sitting on the free agent market waiting to be grabbed who no one has touched yet, and his name is Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo.
What the hell?
What the hell? Released by the Chicago White Sox over the weekend, demoted, what have you, and trying to make the team as a non-roster invitee or whatever. And usually when athletes make social media posts, it's, not all that important. It's Alex Verdugo, who crazy, he's not signed anywhere, just posting Yankees highlights and being like, hey, remember? the Yankees, my highlights, and like, he's trying to get a job, but it's all in the grand scheme of things kind of meaningless. So here's Joey Gallo and his post. He has not tweeted. For those of you who are avid Joey Gallo followers, he retweeted a video the Yankees posted at spring training of him in 2022. That's his most recent post prior to yesterday, when he posted and then had to clarify. He leaves the White Sox, posts a highlight reel of him gunning down base runners with the caption, "It's been fun outfield, peace." And it ends with him throwing a fastball on a minor league bullpen, which may have been the very same spring training bullpen where Mark Leiter threw his secret bullpen session. But either way, that's what we see, right? And it's like, it leaves everybody going, I'm sorry, I believe Joey Gallo just told me he's becoming a pitcher, but I'm not sure about that because that's insane. So I won't jump to that conclusion. The follow-up tweet, again, these are the only two tweets he's sent since 2022. Joey Gallo, just to be clear, I will be pitching. For whom? For why? That we don't know yet. Joey, we're really sorry we gave you A-Rod's number 13 and cursed you for the remainder of your Yankees career and potentially beyond. But this was the needle-moving, power-hitting acquisition that Brian Cashman made at the 2021 trade deadline. And 3.5 years later, he is now leaving White Sox camp to become a pitcher. And I think we all think that's very normal.
Whatever, man. Like, whatever. If this is going to revive his career, do we have any background on his pitching history? Is there anything?
None.
Like, was he a really good two-way player in high school? I don't know. Joey Gallo, if he is going to resurrect his career as a pitcher and the White Sox gave up on him, it sounds like that is not going to work. But again, look, Joey Gallo's been through it. We have not had a good time with Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo has not had a good time with us. But he's a pitcher now. So wish him best in him figuring out his fastball. He had a good arm in the outfield, or at least we thought he did. It never kind of showed itself with the Yankees for whatever reason. Again, got monstered, space jammed, whatever it was when he was in New York. So I don't know what the change of scenery he needs has to be. I mean, objectively, going from New York to LA was awful for him, even though people thought that the Dodgers would somehow fix him. It's like, yeah, the Dodgers probably do have a better system in place, structure in place to foster the best possible traits out of their players. But I don't know if they have that system to resurrect people who have been completely lost. And then, we saw Gallo after that. He had an okay stop with the Twins, but then injuries popped up and he was back to the same old Joey Gallo that we saw in 2021 and 2022. But yeah, I guess if pitching, maybe you get some strikeouts on the other end of the spectrum and changes your outlook on life, because they were certainly piling up in the batter's box. Maybe you could fix it on the mound.
I liked Aaron Boone's comment. John Heyman asked,
he said something about it.
Oh yeah. He's a pretty talented guy. So stranger things have happened. Actually, stranger things have not happened. This is I think the strangest thing to ever happen, if it does happen. And then Boone asked the reporter if Joey Gallo is becoming a two-way player, and they clarified that he said it's been fun outfield. Just to be clear, I will be pitching. And Boone's response to that was, "All right, good luck, Joey." So, yeah, cool. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, are you doing both? No? All right.
Sweet.
Best of luck moving forward. Probably not going to give him a look here, but I mean, I'm 100% rooting for it. I've never rooted against Joey Gallo except for in direct one-on-one matchups with the New York Yankees, in which I was like, if this guy beats me right now, I'm going to have to do a lap around the block. I can't take... He had a walk-off opportunity or a game-tying opportunity when the Yankees played the Nationals last year. I think it might have been just if a two-run homer would have tied it. And I was like, all right. I mean, look, if this guy goes yard, I'm gonna sit on the edge of a pier and dangle my feet into the water and just kind of flick the water around with my toes for a while. I don't think I could handle that, and certainly not in a game. I would actually be less embarrassed by having my players be dominated by Joey Gallo, the pitcher, than I would be by Joey Gallo hitting a game-tying or game-winning home run against the New York Yankees.
I don't know. I can't have either thing happen.
Now I'm trying to find it because I guess this didn't happen last year. I just went through the Yankees Nationals box score.
You just had a nightmare?
From the one game they won, and I'm not seeing any Joey Gallo, so I may have, in fact, lost my mind. That's really the only thing. I mean, we knew that, but now it's like, the fact that the thing we're talking about of Joey Gallo becoming a pitcher, that's the real thing, and Joey Gallo having a chance to tie a game against the Yankees is a fake thing that didn't happen. That's surprising.
It certainly is. But here we are. This is it. Spring training storylines, Joey Gallo becoming a pitcher. Cool. I got nothing else on that. I'm hoping that just the Yankees can, I don't know. What's the word we can even use? Because it's not get to opening day unscathed, because they have been as scathed as you can possibly be. Yeah. And look, you know what? I did look around the league, and a lot of other teams are dealing with injury issues. I know we always talk about how could this only be us?
Yeah.
There is still a level of this where it is definitely only Yankees, where it's like the repetitive nature with either the same names or a brand new star player that completely disrupts the status quo and what the team was planning. But like, Mets are going through it. Orioles are going through it. I was reading about somebody yesterday.
I mean, the Red Sox are down Bayo and Giolito and maybe Cutter Crawford. Like, it's definitely happening throughout the league.
So I partially recant my statement. I would say that the Yankees situation remains unique, but it is not singular. But yeah, I mean, Cole Tommy John surgery is ridiculous. Clarke Schmidt, after missing 3.5 months last year, still not healthy. Luis Heel, Rookie of the Year season, immediately down for essentially the first half of this year. It's just like, and this is all after losing Juan Soto. So it's not like the Yankees didn't already suffer a massive loss that would change the complexion of everything already. But teams suffering injuries, I feel for you, would never root for anybody, even my most hated rival, to have those kind of injuries. Which is why I am now fully rooting against all the healthy people to just perform poorly and not get their team to the playoffs.
Yeah,
on those three, on the Mets, on the Red Sox, and on the Dodgers.
That's the spirit. I hope those three teams play extremely poorly this year, and I hope the Yankees play well. Thank you for joining us. I cannot find a documented piece of evidence of Joey Gallo facing the Yankees in a walk-off or game-tying situation last year, so I'm going to assume I slept through that and had some ayahuasca before bed and made it up. But I hope it never happens this year. Hope he pitches. Hope he pitches just fine. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as live on YouTube every Monday, every Thursday at 2:00 Eastern. We're going to be bopping around the schedule a little bit the next couple of weeks. We're going to be having guest hosts. We're going to have some fun changes on this podcast to account for some early season vacations. Then we'll be back for the stretch run of the games that every game matters, but then the games that really matter, where you're going to have the hottest lineup. We'll bring you guests. We'll bring you all that stuff. You can find me on Twitter exactly where I told you could. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. YanksGoYard.com is the website. If you're interested in reading is good for you. It's definitely better than listening to some extent. We're consuming all this media. You got to take a step back and just, 30 minutes to an hour, read a little bit. And we got plenty of stuff on the site that we don't talk about on the podcast. As I mentioned every week, all things Yankees, all ready for you to consume. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, appreciate you guys reading. As always, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Very easy thing to do. We will be here again Friday of this week, I believe. We're going to move the Thursday podcast. We have some issues.
That is true.
Good issues, though. Everything's good. So we're going to shift it to Friday. If anything happens before that, maybe we consider a Wednesday. I don't know, but that's why you got to like and subscribe, because then you'll get the notification. You'll say, oh, man, my guys are going live. I got to be there for it. It's going to be a great time. Once again, appreciate it. We got another week of spring. Is it less than a week? When does spring end? Does it end this weekend? It's over this weekend?
Well, that's a good question, because early in the week, they're going to be pivoting to those like weird fake exhibition games where they go to somebody's house. There is the Yankees go play the Marlins in Miami on next Tuesday. So the last spring training game is Monday against the Mets. They got 1, 2-3 with a split squad, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more. That's unfortunately too many more. Stop this. And then an exhibition game in Miami on Tuesday, if you're going to that. I saw a guy in a Yankees jersey and a Marlins hat at spring training last week. I hope he's going. That sounds like exactly the event that he should be attending. Then they come home, play the Brew Crew, 3:05 Eastern, Thursday afternoon, the 27th, official opening day. Then an off day because you haven't waited enough. Friday, no baseball. Thank you. Calendar day on Saturday, the 29th, Sunday afternoon as well. Get your calendars for the Yankees' second game of the regular season against their fierce AL East rival. If you just came out of a time machine in the 80s, the Milwaukee Brewers. We can't wait, though. It's going to be fun.
Sure is.
We will see everybody back here Friday, like Thomas said. Set your notifications, turn them on, ring that bell. We'll be here to talk more Yankees baseball. Hopefully we learn almost nothing in the next 4 days. I don't want the baseball on the field to matter. I don't want anything to happen that is noteworthy in these games. Maybe if you trade for a righty bat, that would be great. I'll take that. But as far as the game action, I want to learn jack shit between now and the next podcast. How about that?
Agreed. I'm in. Sign me up.
I'm in. We will see everybody here to talk about whatever it is that happened on Friday.